Hi guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about loosening up in your artwork. Most artists are trying to get at least a little bit looser, if not a lot looser, and the process to getting there can be really hard. And there's a couple of reasons for that. As we're growing up, the education system usually promotes accuracy over creativity and expressiveness. And so that translates and sort of seeps into our art practice. And oftentimes we're associating something being accurate as being good. And the less accurate it is that it's bad. And so part of this is there's a mindset element that you have to get over. You have to prioritize the internal versus the external validation. And as nice as it is for somebody to come along and say, hey, that's a really pretty painting, you just kind of have to accept that loosening up, you're going to make a lot of bad paintings along the way to getting to the looseness that you want, and that's okay. And that everybody has different tastes, and just because your immediate circle is not really into what you're doing, that doesn't mean that what you're doing is bad or wrong. So there are a lot of different ways and tricks you can use to loosen up in your paintings. I'm just going to go over really one of them today, but you can always do things like standing back from your art, using long brush handles, setting a timer so that you're sort of speed painting and you get out of that mindset of overthinking everything. Last winter, I developed a way of working that got me to loosen up in painting. And essentially what it is starting with contour drawings instead of really blocking everything in accurately. And that would give me interesting shapes to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did that and how it works for me. And I'll actually do one in real time and talk you through it. So I'll show you my contour drawings first, and then I'll show you the contour paintings that are in this one. And what I did was last winter, I was on a Patreon where they were doing contour drawing. And so these are just all different ways of doing that. This is a 2-minute blind contour. This one's actually my favorite. This one and this one. This is another 2-minute contour. And this is a non-dominant hand one. These were my favorite, and I think these were all done with colored pencil. This was using both hands at the same time with a different type of material in each hand. So there was a pencil and a marker. Same thing over here. This was one hand, but it was going through with 2 layers. And it just, when you do contour drawing, it creates all these interesting lines and shapes. And that's what's so great about it. So I'll just go through and I'll show you the others. This one was standing, so you can try different ways of moving your body or different positions to see what kind of different marks you get. This was a vase of flowers and lemons. I really like how these leaves came out, and I know that if I had been actually looking at what I was doing and going for accuracy, my leaves never would have come out like this. And this picture would not have been this loose, and neither would the lemons. This is just, I think there's a point I'll be able to get to where I'm looking at something and looking at what I'm doing and be able to get to this, but the less you look, the more interesting your drawing is going to be. I think some people are going for accuracy, and that's okay. If you're an accuracy person and you somehow found your way to me, it's okay. That's a totally valid way to do things, but if you're looking for looseness, you kind of have to go after the looseness and prioritize that over the accuracy. So this is another 5-minute one with just neo color, and I think these were just different plates with pears and grapes on them, and I really like how this came out and just the looseness and the big shapes. This one I didn't like how it came out, and it might have just been the materials I used. I think had I just kept it all neo color and kind of monochromatic, I would have liked it better, but you kind of have to try things sometimes to figure out what you don't like. And here's another one. This is some lemons. This is a table still life. And again, like, I never would have been able to do this had I been looking at my paper the whole time and not really just pulling in the energy of the thing that I'm drawing. Because a lot of times when you're doing contour drawing, it's fun to move your hand around in different ways so that it's almost like as you're drawing, you're not just drawing the thing, you're feeling the shape of the thing as you're moving, you know, your crayon or your pencil. And it just helps, again, to keep things loose. This is just another table setting, another vase. I like how this one came out. So this is, again, a bunch of sunflowers. Again, it would not have come out like this had I been looking at my paper. This has so much more energy and life to it than had I been looking at it again and going for that accuracy, because I'm looking for energy and interesting marks and shapes. I'm not looking, again, for so much accuracy. I do want it to look like the thing sometimes. So these are very obviously sunflowers. So it's more about capturing what are those main shapes that give me a sense of what the thing is, rather than all the intricate details. I want to say less, not more. And the last one in here is, this is my cat Benjamin. I had some drawing materials and he was lying on my bed, so I just drew him really quickly with what looks like some markers and colored pencil. Oh, I forgot to tell you which kind of sketchbooks these are. This is just an art creation sketchbook. You can get these all over the internet and online art supply stores. These are really inexpensive. I think these are about $20, and it has a ton of paper in it. This is that kind of ivory off-white paper that can be really nice to work in. So this is a really cheap sketchbook from Michael's. It's an art supply store in the US. I think these are pretty much always on clearance for less than $10. And it's just got paper in it it's got that papery sketchbook paper feel, and it's only a little bit heavier than copy paper. So there's a lot of paper in here, and it's nice because it just frees you up. You're not really getting precious about the paper. This is what the binding looks like if you go looking for it. What kind of got me on to doing contour painting was I pulled up, I think, an image, or I had a picture, and I just started doing a contour drawing. I just wanted to pull in different elements and stick them in different spots on here, and then incorporate some paint just to make it interesting and add some value. And kind of got away from that for a while and just did some still lifes in different ways. And then this loose sketchy one came about, and this isn't really successful, but it was these two that kind of got me thinking about combining them. And so then I started taking that scene and really simplifying it. And I'll show you the image from this a little bit later, but just coming in and doing a really loose contour drawing and just blocking in color and playing with color and value differences. This isn't really about creating some really finished piece. This is really just about playing and loosening up and experimenting, because if I can be really loose here, even if I can't keep the same amount of looseness when I go back to maybe working on more like a finished piece, this still loosens me up so that in my more finished work, I will be looser overall, if that makes sense. So I just kept doing that. And again, this is another scene. This is just a curtain over here and a chair with some lemons on the table. And again, just playing with the idea of where to block in color, where to leave light space to create value contrast. This is the same scene as that first one. It's just a different version. I do like this one a lot better, and I think it's because of the value differences. This is a little bit more all middle value, and that's okay. But again, this just has these looseness and variety of marks in it. And here's that table scene again with the curtain and the chair and the lemons. This one I think is my favorite. And I just added some marks up here with my paintbrush, but you can see the shape that I'm getting in the chair up here, and the shapes and the marks that I'm getting in the lemons. Again, if I was looking at this and doing a painting of this, I couldn't capture that. There's the vase again. with the pears, and I think this one came out really well too. And again, it's largely because of the value differences and the little marks moving your eye around. And then this one was more filled in, so it's that same scene. So there's here, here, here. And this came out really well, and I was really happy with this. Again, you get that more interesting shape in the chair. Had I been looking, I probably would have drawn this the way that it was supposed to be. These lemons wouldn't have this energy coming across the page and all these marks in here. And I think that might be, nope, there's one more. So now you can see the difference. So I think in this one, I was looking at the image and I was trying to take what I learned about color and value and stuff from here and then make it better. And it's not that this is terrible, like it's okay, but I think this really illustrates the difference. This just has a lot more character and energy to it in a way that this didn't. And I'm gonna also tell you that this was a heck of a lot more fun to make in the first place. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you how I go about doing one of these. So before we get into the actual contour drawing and painting, I just wanna give you some tips about doing contour drawings. This is easier to get going in if you can choose something that has a large focal point, like a vase of flowers or a cat. There can still be some complexity in the simplicity around whatever the focal point is, but sometimes it can just be easier to feel more successful if we don't have an intricate scene and we can just quickly get in and get out and play with the big shapes and the marks. Another tip is probably to choose at least a mid-tone or a dark. Within those, you'll be able to play with value a little bit more. If you start with something too light on the page, you're just not going to get that range that you can get of value, because even when I'm using something that's a mid-tone, like in this whole thing, my marks read as lighter here because I wasn't pushing as hard when I was coming through here with these marks, and that gives a really subtle value difference and some interest. And the last thing is just to try different materials to see what you like. Everybody's gonna like different stuff. I didn't really like doing this with a marker so much. That might change in the future. I really like doing this with colored pencil and then the Neo color. Those are the mark preferences that I like. I feel like, especially with the Neo color, as you're turning the crayon, it's easier to get thin lines and thick lines. And another way to get that effect too is by varying the pressure as you're coming around and drawing. And just those thin lines versus thick lines give you some value difference. They give you line quality difference, and those things just to add interest to the contour drawings. All right, let's dive into the painting. All right, I'm sort of chasing the sun here. It kind of starts coming over here in the afternoon and moves over, so hopefully I can get this done in one big shot. But I'm gonna come in with I'm pretty sure this is a Neo Color 1. And for me, that's what I use when I do this because I don't want my marks to move. If you're okay with your marks losing some of them and you like that and you like when they kind of add to paint color, you can use a Neo Color 2 because those are water soluble. This is the scene I'm using. You can see that it was in the other examples I showed you earlier. I am going to get rid of the flowers in the vase here though, just for simplicity's sake. So I'm gonna bring this kind of horizon line up from the tablecloth and, you know, bring it up to here on my piece. And so I have to try to not look at what I'm doing while I'm filming this, but I do look down just to see, you know, where I want to start. And what I'll do is I'll get the blanket or the tablecloth in, and then I'll come and look and I'll see where I want to stick the pears, and then I'll stop looking and get the pears in, and so on and so forth. So I'm just gonna, and I'm just thinking about kind of the different kinds of marks. And so I want different qualities as I come throughout here. So I came off here and I'm gonna just, this is a shadowy area. So I'm just gonna loosen up and scribble and coming in through here. And there's another shadow here. And I think I just want to come back over and get some other marks in here. So that's fine. This is the tablecloth. I want to come over here now and just kind of get this corner because it's got some fun designs. That will be bigger on here. Actually, there's a fold that comes right there. So I think here's what I'll do. I'm going to start over here and come back up and just I'm just trying to grab scribbles and marks right here for these. And then I want to come back over, and there's a line here because there's some of that lighter color tablecloth here. And now there's that design. So I'm going to actually come back up. It's always hard to do stuff like this when you're filming because you don't know how it's going to come out and you're talking while you're filming. But this is just more, again, this isn't necessarily about trying to make anything good. It's about trying to make something interesting and just playing around with loosening up. All right, so we have a lot of interesting marks happening in here. And now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to put the pears in. And I'm going to put them over here. So I'll just kind of come in with this pear. And now I'm going to come up and do the second one. Get the little stem. Come over and do the third one. And the little stem, and that's good enough. So now we have something really loose to start with. I'm going to come in first and start defining these pears a little bit just to add those back in. So I am going to hold this reference over here and just put that there. And I'm going to come in and just start mixing for some pears. And I just want a bit of a neutral green, so that's why I've got the red going. My most neutral pear is back here, and so this is a pretty neutral color. Again, just trying to stay loose, but I want some of those marks to come through. And then this is already in neutral. It's going to tone down anything I mix with it. That's fine. It'll harmonize right from there. And so I'm going to come over here to this pear. And again, this is just about getting interesting shapes, value differences, saturation differences. It's an opportunity to play with composition. And I think this one I want to make pretty light and a lot more yellow, just so it's very different from the others. And just mushing the brush around and getting some interest there. Okay, I'm gonna block in this background up here. I do want to keep it a light mid-tone for me, just because it's kind of what I want to play with right now. I'm going to add some pink to this green, and it's going to give me this kind of muted color that's going to harmonize and come in. This, actually want it to be pinker. This is what happens when you don't wash your brush. But I just want to do this quickly so the video doesn't get too long. Add some more pink in there. This corner over here is kind of like a dark mid-tone, the way the pears are. And I want to keep the blanket or the tablecloth a light color. So I just want to put this dark in and then put the light in for those pieces. Could be fun to actually have something bright over here. So I think I'm going to come in here with some bright red. And this has some of that background color in here. So again, it's just harmonized because I'm putting some of all of the other colors into this red. So what I'm going to do, so you can kind of see how that covered things up, I want this edge to be looser. You can kind of see the marks under there now. So if this happens and you cover something up, but you want the under to show through, you can come through and just spray a little. And then take a roll of paper towels. These are blue shop towels. They're great because they're smooth. They don't have a pattern on them. If you're okay with a pattern on them though, you can just use, you know, whatever you have at the grocery store. But you can see how pulling paint off, it just gives you a different effect. And then you can also come back in. Sometimes you gotta let it sit for a minute, but you get the idea. You just keep pulling paint off while it's still relatively wet, and you'll get those marks showing through again. So now we're just gonna fill in this blanket. I wanna keep it really light because I want the value contrast. So I'm just gonna come in, again, real loose. And this, I'm gonna mush the paint around. I think the Neo color I used was a 2 accidentally, not a 1. That's okay though. So if you use a 2 and you scrub, it's gonna move. So I'm just playing with, again, shapes and brush marks and working relatively quickly to just keep everything loose. This is where if you want to come back in and really kind of define the shapes of your pears again, you can kind of get rid of some of the wonkiness. And then I think what I'm going to do is pull some of the paint off over here because I like the marks from the tablecloth, so hopefully those will come back. See? And you get these really nice marks when that happens. And what's great is it integrates the pattern, it pushes it back a little bit. It makes it feel like it's, these designs aren't sitting on top of the tablecloth, but they're part of the scene itself. So I think this is good enough for an example. So let's close up, do a close up because the sun is coming. And I won't be able to film anymore for a while. But you can get a sense, if you look at just the general composition, you've got this big shape with a lot of movement up here. You've got a big dark down here. You've got another dark in here with the pears, and then you've got an interesting light that's coming in through the tablecloth. You can even come back, close that up a little bit, add another layer a little bit in there, and I think this pear would actually be better. Lighter and just stick out a little bit more and come forward. There. All right, so I am finished with this. I think you get the point, is you can come in and just do this really loose contour drawing and play with your materials. It's a really good opportunity because you're not gonna feel really precious about this. I just drew this in and you guys saw this in probably like a minute. When you're less precious about it, it gives you an opportunity to play, so you can play with value differences, saturation differences, and really just start working on how to move your eye around a composition and loosen up in your paintings. So I hope that this was helpful for you, and you see that you can come up with different ways of working to trick your brain into loosening up and finding different ways to get the shapes and interest that you want in your paintings. If you have your own ways of loosening up, please share them in the comments. It's always fun to see how other people come up with these ideas to help themselves through their painting process. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.